What's going on, my wellness warriors, and welcome back to another episode from Reach Home Recovery. Today we're going to be talking about the dreaded narcissistic emotional roller coaster. Now, if any of y'all has been in a relationship with a narcissist for any amount of time, you already know what I'm talking about just from the title of this video. I probably don't even have to go into too much detail with you, but we're going to talk about it from a different perspective. In fact, I'm willing to bet about 99.998% of y'all, so I gotta put a little disclaimer in there, of those of you who are authentic narc abuse survivors know it all too well. For those of you that don't, we're talking about the extreme ups and downs, the kind of hot and cold emotional behavior of that narc. It's almost like they have a bipolar disorder where you don't know if you're going to get Dr. Jekyll or you're going to get Mr. Hyde. Now, if this happens over an extended period of time, it gets to a point where you'll just start feeling like you're walking on eggshells around them because you don't know when they're going to explode. It'll just kind of be like, ooh, let's go, Broomy. Crazy out there today, man. I don't believe the day I had. Hey, roommate, what's going on? Game about to come on. You just in time. Yeah, grab a couple extra Twister teas, man. Go in the fridge and grab one, man. Yeah, enjoy yourself. Man, that's what's up. You know you be looking out, man. That's what's up, man. Let me go ahead and grab me one of these, man. Hey, yo. Says you touched my stuff. What? Bro, you just said. Nah, I don't remember saying nothing like that. Where I'm from, you gotta earn your keep. And you ain't put no money towards nothing in there. Matter of fact, close that whole refrigerator. Yeah, all right. What you doing, bro? You ain't want it? Hmm? You can grab something else. You sure now? You sure? Yeah, it's cool, man. You like a brother to me. You sure now? You sure? You 100% positive? Yeah. All right. Get up out of there. Don't even worry about it. I'm straight. Now, for the rest of you, you might not experience it because it may just be too early in a relationship and you're in the love bomb phase. Now, you may be watching this video because you saw a couple red flags or your intuition picked up on some stuff, and then you got a little bit of information that caused you to check this out. Or you might have got a little preview, a little slight argument before everything kicked off. If that's the case, just know it's coming. And when it comes in full force. Now, I got a little secret for all y'all. Some of you may already know this. We're going to go ahead and bring it in close. I don't know how to zoom, so I'm just going to get in close on you. Disregard the blemishes. But they do this on purpose. This type of hot and cold back and forth is by design. Now, you say, why would they do that? It's a subtle form of abuse training. It's like a slow indoctrination to full-blown abuse. Now, your narcissism is crazy. Their primary goal is the abuse, and there's several different types of abuses that they can employ. But they know if they walk up to you from jump on the first date, first time they're meeting you, and they let you see their true character, they tell you outright that they're going to abuse you in ways you never thought imaginable, then you being of same mind and body aren't going to stick around. They know they have to get you invested first. Now that's what the love bomb phase is all about. The love bomb phase is about putting on the best face, learning your likes, dislikes, mirroring that back to you, becoming the ideal partner so that you get invested early and you fall hot, heavy, and hard. Now, essentially, once this happens, they can slowly identify what form of abuse is going to work perfectly on you. And then once they know that, they introduce it little by little. Each time it happens, they learn how you react. They'll seek forgiveness, and they'll seek to build your tolerance to that abuse. So after a couple cycles of that, they're going to be looking to get you to that full-blown abuse phase. Now that full-blown abuse phase is what they wanted from the beginning. So when they get to that phase, they're going to take their time with it. They're going to enjoy it. In fact, some narcissists are angry that it took you so long to be indoctrinated to get to that point, so they feel they have to make up for lost time. Now, it's important that you understand what's going on, whether it's happening to you or whether it's happening to a loved one. Because the outcome is either the discard of the relationship / situationship or death. Now that death could be the death of something inside of you or the actual physical death of the person itself. So this is something I'm really, I really want to get this point across. And in order to do that, I want to talk about a story in the Bible that a lot of people know. It's a very popular story, but we're going to look at it in a more detailed view. Now, the text that I want to read from today is going to be the book of Judges, chapter 16, starting at verse 4, going to 20. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm going to read 4, and I'm going to touch on bits and pieces of it, because I trust everyone has their own Bible, or if not, they have their own internet service where they can go search this up online. Now, this story is going to be about the relationship between Samson and a young woman named Delilah. Now, just to give you a little bit of a backstory about Samson, he was a child of God. He had a special anointing over his life, where it was like he had supernatural power or supernatural strength. His purpose in life was going to be to deliver Israel from the Philistines. And you know, because if you read chapter 13, an angel of God came to his mother and father and told him so. But he had a specific weakness. And that weakness is, if he were ever to cut his hair, to cut the 7 dreads on his head, he would lose his supernatural strength given to him from God. Now, when we jump into the story, he's taken a liking to a young woman named Delilah, and Delilah has nothing but bad intentions for him. But he can't quite seem to discern that. So let's go ahead and jump into it now. I think that's enough of a backstory to give the people that don't know kind of some background as to what's happening. So again, it's Judges 16, verse 4. After it happened that he loved the woman in the valley of Sorek, whose name was Delilah, and the lords of the Philistine came up to her and said to her, "Entice him and find out where his great strength lies, and by what means we may overpower him, that we may bind him to afflict him, and every one of us will give you 1,100 pieces of silver." Now we're going to stop right there and digest that, because Delilah doesn't turn this down. You'll see immediately in the next verse, she commences to doing the orders of the Philistines. Now, if you notice in the text, it says that Samson fell in love with this young woman, but nowhere does it mention any affection that Delilah had towards him. And that's because there is none. She had an ulterior motive to serve her own worldly desires, and it didn't matter if Samson was sacrificed in the process. She uses his emotions towards her to find out his weakness, to play him. So what you'll see, I'm not going to read through all of it, but if you read through verses 6 through 14, it's the biblical example of what an emotional roller coaster is. Their relationship or situationship is exactly what it was. There are 3 scenarios where Delilah tries to get Samson to confess his weakness. Samson, even though he loves her, he must know that something is wrong. Why do you say that? Because he lies all 3 times. So he must have been picking up something, some type of red flags, something in his intuition that was telling him not to tell her the true weakness to his power. But here's what really floored me about the text. Every time Samson misled her about what his greatest weakness was or what could make him weak, Delilah tried to kill him. So the first time, he said you had to tie his hands with 7 fresh bowstrings. Then Delilah went to the Philistines. And an interesting thing happened here. She gave them the information, but the enemy knew he didn't have the power to do it himself. So he provided her with the 7 fresh bowstrings. And Delilah went and actually tied Samson's hands and called for the Philistines to kill him. It failed. Now the second time, Samson says, tie my hands with fresh ropes that have never been used. Pay attention to what Delilah does. She now goes out and gets the ropes herself, ties his hands, and then calls the Philistines to kill him. That fails. And then the last failed attempt, Samson said to weave the 7 braids of my head into the fabric of the loom and tie it tight with a pin. Now Delilah waits for him to fall asleep, does exactly what he says, and then calls the Philistines to kill him, and that fails. There are a couple things I want you to notice in between those sections of text. The first thing is the increasing boldness of Delilah. The first attempt, she didn't want to sully her hands and kill him. She went to the Philistines, but that failed. They just gave her the tools to do it. The second time, she went out and got the tools herself. And the third time, she actually waited till he was asleep and took the time to braid those 7 braids of hair into the loom and tie it with a pin. And that's the first thing. The actions are getting progressively worse. Just like the actions, the abuse that gets progressively worse, and that emotional roller coaster of a relationship with a narcissist. Now, the next thing I want you to pay attention to is how she never takes accountability. So after each attempt, when she ties his hands or braids his hair, the very next thing she does is she signals for the Philistines to come kill him. But she calls out to Samson, Samson, the Philistines are upon you. Almost as if a loving wife or a loving girlfriend that's concerned about you and wants you to defend yourself. Meanwhile, she planned the whole attack. There's no backbone to her. She could have easily confessed how much she didn't love him, how she betrayed him, and so on and so forth. But she wanted to play the role that she wasn't involved. Then lastly, when everything is said and done, she exploits one of the greatest emotional ploys that you can do to somebody in a one-sided relationship. In verse 15, she tells Samson, how can you say, I love you, and you don't confide in me? She's playing on his emotions, taking advantage of his love towards her. Now, this is what that does, is it starts an inner dialogue in that person. They know they care for the other individual, and they are hard pressed to prove their love for him. So with that staying, with that ultimatum, you essentially just told them the only way you can prove your love to me is to give me exactly what that ultimatum was for. Now think about it. That was going in replay in his head back and forth. Now, imagine what Samson was going through during those last couple days of his relationship. Days, months, the Bible doesn't give a time frame. Couldn't even been years. He was going through an internal struggle, both mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And then at the same time he was going through that struggle, externally, he was being bombarded by his significant other, or what he thought was his significant other, to the point that he caved. Now, that emotional roller coaster, that's when you're coming down towards rock bottom, where that discard or that death is imminent. When it's that bad, the discard or the death is imminent. But unfortunately for Samson, he informed Delilah, thus informing the Philistines of how to afflict him and kill him. Now, the narc has a sixth sense, because Samson had lied 3 times before. But the narc has a sixth sense of knowing when they got the truth. So much so that this time, when she went and talked to the Philistines, she convinced them so thoroughly that they came back. They already had the silver in hand, ready to take them out. And then Delilah she commenced doing what she had done all along. Bible says she lulled him to sleep, then called someone to cut all his hair, then called out to him one last time, "Samson, the Philistines are upon you." Samson thought to himself he could break free, but he didn't realize his hair was cut and God had left him. The strength that God given him had left him. So he was subdued and he was afflicted. Now, the next subheading you read in the Bible is the death of Samson. Ultimately, that poor choice, that poor relationship led to his downfall. Now, I want y'all to see the correlation between that story in the book and your own situation with your narcissist. So Samson is you. Samson is the child of God that's been anointed to fulfill his purpose. With his anointing came with a set of instructions. If he obeyed those instructions, he would stay in God's protection. That hedge of protection would stay around him. Delilah was the narcissist. Another human being, but broken, self-serving. Just the capacity to love is not the same as what Samson had. And the Philistines represent the enemy. Now the enemy, they knew they couldn't touch Samson. They knew he had that hedge around him that protected him. But they could use Delilah. They could use another earthly vessel, a broken earthly vessel, to affect his anointing, to get him to give away the secrets of his power. The enemy uses the narcissist because the narcissist is driven by worldly desires. Their ultimate goal is to learn what makes you tick, to learn the anointing that God placed over your life, to get you to be disobedient. And then once that happens, your hedge of protection is gone and the enemy can attack you in full force. So if you find yourself in this emotional roller coaster that's progressively getting worse, or if you know of someone, a loved one or a friend that's in the same situation, what you need to do is very simple. It ain't no 5, 10 steps. It's one step. Get off the ride. Your life and your purpose is worth more than the circus that you're currently going through. With that being said, I hope this message resonates with at least one of you and that you share it with somebody else. Thank you again for allowing me to fellowship with you. And until the next time, keep fighting the good fight. Love y'all. Peace.